As the board meeting fell silent as Rachel Donovan, the ice-cold CEO of Atlas Defense Technologies, announced her marriage. "Meet my husband, Logan Hayes." All eyes widened at the sight of the tall, unassuming man in simple clothes, the same man who had been silently cleaning their offices for months. What the powerful businesswoman didn't know was that her convenient contract husband once commanded America's most classified special forces unit. The janitor who scrubbed their floors had assassinated dictators and dismantled terrorist cells. And now, as shadowy figures circled Rachel's empire, Logan's carefully buried past was about to resurface with lethal consequences. Rachel Donovan strode through the gleaming lobby of Atlas Defense Technologies, her navy pencil dress and crisp white blazer a stark contrast to the muted earth tones of the Austin headquarters she now commanded. Employees scattered from her path, their whispers following her like shadows. 6 weeks had passed since her father's suspicious yacht accident, and 3 weeks since the board revealed the shocking stipulation in his will: marry within 30 days or lose controlling interest in the company. The heels of her Italian leather pumps echoed against the marble floor as she made her way to the executive elevator. 30 days to find a husband. The absurdity of it made her jaw clench. Joseph Donovan had built this company from nothing, teaching his daughter every aspect of the business, preparing her to take his place. And yet, in death, he'd added this archaic condition that threatened everything she'd worked for. From her office, now clinically redecorated to her specifications. Rachel reviewed the latest missile guidance system blueprints, while her assistant, Vanessa, provided updates on potential candidates for her emergency marriage. "The VP of Marketing is divorced, attractive enough, and already cleared for classified information," Vanessa suggested. Rachel dismissed him with a wave. "Too ambitious. He'd never accept a temporary arrangement." "The Chief Financial Officer?" Vanessa continued, scrolling through her tablet. "Too connected to the board. He'd report everything back to Blackwood." Rachel turned to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the Austin skyline. "I need someone with no stake in Atlas, someone who understands discretion, someone—" She paused, frustration evident in the tight line of her mouth. "Someone controllable." That evening, after reviewing 7 potential husband candidates and finding fatal flaws in each, Rachel escaped to a small dive bar miles from the corporate district, a place no one would recognize the Ice Queen of Atlas. Several drinks later, her carefully maintained control slipped away. The stress of her father's death, the company's future hanging in the balance, and the ticking clock of the inheritance clause overwhelmed her usually impenetrable composure. In this vulnerable state, she found herself drawn to a quiet man with observant eyes sitting alone at the bar. There was something steadying about his presence, something familiar she couldn't quite place. Logan Hayes listened without judgment as she vaguely described her predicament, his calm demeanor a contrast to her emotional turmoil. "Sometimes the most impossible problems have the simplest solutions," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to cut through the noise of the bar. Rachel studied him more closely. Broad shoulders beneath a simple gray t-shirt, strong hands wrapped around his whiskey glass, a thin scar along his jawline. His eyes held something she recognized, the careful watchfulness of someone who had seen too much. When an aggressive patron harassed Rachel, Logan intervened with startling efficiency, a precise wrist lock that required no dramatic movement, just controlled expertise that made the aggressor apologize and retreat. The combination of alcohol, emotional release, and this stranger's unexpected protection lowered Rachel's carefully constructed defenses. "Where did you learn to do that?" she asked, moving closer to him at the bar. Logan shrugged, his expression revealing nothing. "Here and there. You pick things up." The night became a blur of confessions and connection, culminating in an impulsive invitation back to her penthouse. Morning brought clarity and shock. Logan was part of the maintenance staff at Atlas, the quiet janitor she'd passed 100 times without noticing. Rather than the embarrassment most CEOs might feel, Rachel saw opportunity in this compromising situation. A man with no connections, no ambitions, someone she assumed was a compliant failure, who could be easily controlled and compensated. She watched him from the doorway of her bedroom as he stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouetted against the morning light, his military straight posture at odds with his supposed station in life. Something didn't quite add up about Logan Hayes, but Rachel was too focused on her immediate problem to dig deeper. She proposed her contract marriage over coffee. 1 year, generous monthly payments, separate lives, and absolute discretion. Logan considered her with those unreadable eyes before agreeing, with one condition: no background checks beyond the standard employment screening he'd already passed. "Everyone has things they'd rather leave behind," he said. Rachel, assuming he had minor legal troubles or debts, agreed. The arrangement seemed perfect: a compliant husband with no interest in her company and no power to threaten her position. They married quietly 3 days later at the county courthouse. Logan in a borrowed suit, Rachel in a simple white dress that betrayed nothing of the business transaction taking place. As they signed the papers, neither noticed the man photographing them from across the street, nor the encrypted message he sent: "Target has changed patterns. New variable introduced." Rachel's announcement of her marriage sent shockwaves through Atlas. Board members exchanged skeptical glances as Logan stood quietly beside her in his first and only designer suit. Marcus Blackwood, her father's oldest friend and board chairman, studied Logan with suspicious eyes. "Quite the whirlwind romance," he remarked, his handshake with Logan lingering as if assessing something. Logan met his gaze with practiced blandness, revealing nothing. "When you know," Rachel replied with a practiced smile, her hand resting possessively on Logan's arm. The board members nodded, some with obvious relief. The inheritance clause satisfied, their positions secure. Only Blackwood seemed troubled, his eyes narrowing as he watched Logan's careful movements around the room. To maintain appearances, Logan moved into Rachel's sterile penthouse apartment. She established clear boundaries: separate bedrooms, minimal interaction, no interference in her work. Logan complied without complaint, continuing his janitor position despite her suggestion that he take a paid leave. "I prefer to earn my keep," he said simply. Rachel misinterpreted this as the pride of a simple man, unaware that Logan needed access to the building to investigate his own suspicions about Atlas. Their initial weeks together established a rhythm of careful avoidance. Rachel rose at 5 in the morning for her punishing fitness routine before 14-hour workdays. Logan worked night shifts, moving silently through the building while executives worked late on classified projects. In rare moments at the apartment, Rachel found herself disconcerted by Logan's efficiency, the way he observed and adapted to her habits without discussion, anticipating needs she never expressed. When Rachel struggled with insomnia, she came home to find perfect cups of chamomile tea waiting. When she skipped meals during intensive work periods, nutritious food appeared in her office refrigerator. Logan required nothing, explained nothing, his quiet confidence both comforting and irritating to a woman who prided herself on needing no one. One night, returning earlier than usual, Rachel found Logan doing precise military push-ups in the living room, his movements so fluid and controlled they appeared effortless. He stopped immediately upon seeing her, rising to his feet with a grace that seemed incongruous with his supposed background. When questioned, he mentioned only that "staying fit helps me work better." Rachel let it go, but filed away this inconsistency with others she'd begun to notice. Their first real clash came when Rachel hosted a dinner for potential military clients. Logan, whom she intended to keep away, stepped smoothly into the role of host when her social anxiety threatened to derail the evening. His unexpected knowledge of military protocols and defense systems, which he attributed to reading a lot, charmed the generals. Rachel was simultaneously grateful and furious at being upstaged, confronting him afterward about overstepping boundaries. "You were drowning," Logan said simply. "I just kept you afloat." "I don't need rescuing," she snapped. "Everyone does sometimes," he responded, something like old pain flicking in his eyes before his expression returned to neutral. Before she could demand further explanation, he'd retreated to his room, leaving Rachel with the unsettling feeling that she'd glimpsed something genuine beneath his carefully maintained facade. Meanwhile, Logan conducted his own investigation during his maintenance rounds. He discovered unusual security gaps in Atlas's systems, encrypted communications that bypassed official channels, and mysterious shipments of technology that matched patterns he recognized from his former life. He began to suspect that Rachel's father's death was neither accident nor coincidence. and that Rachel herself might be in danger from forces within her own company. During late-night shifts, Logan slipped into secure areas using the access his janitor's position provided, downloading server logs and photographing shipping manifests. In the basement archives, he found discrepancies in financial records dating back months before Joseph Donovan's death, evidence of resources being diverted, prototype tests manipulated, classified information leaking through carefully concealed digital backdoors. As Logan became increasingly protective without explanation, Rachel's frustration grew. She'd built her career on control and self-reliance, yet found herself responding to this quiet man's subtle guidance. When she confronted him about his mysterious phone calls and unexplained absences, Logan offered only vague reassurances. The tension between them built, professional and personal boundaries blurring despite their efforts to maintain distance. 3 months into their arrangement, Rachel secured a lucrative Department of Defense contract for a revolutionary drone targeting system, cementing her position as CEO. The celebration at Atlas headquarters became a high-profile event with military officials, board members, and technology partners in attendance. Logan, still maintaining his janitor cover, watched from the periphery as Rachel commanded the room in a striking blue gown, finally accepted in her father's world. From his position near the service entrance, Logan's trained eye cataloged potential threats: the catering staff with unexpected access to secure areas, security personnel whose positioning left blind spots in coverage, a particular guard whose communication patterns and movements seemed off protocol. Something felt wrong, triggering the hypervigilance that had kept him alive through countless operations. During her keynote speech, Logan noticed a security guard whose movement patterns didn't match standard protocols. As the guard positioned himself near Rachel, with one hand inside his jacket, Logan abandoned his cover identity without hesitation. He moved with controlled precision through the crowd, reached Rachel just as the guard drew a concealed weapon, and smoothly redirected the attack. The bullet grazed Logan's arm instead of finding Rachel's heart. In the ensuing chaos, Logan neutralized the assassin with military efficiency, his movements betraying years of combat training. Rachel watched in shock as her unassuming husband transformed into someone unrecognizable, commanding, lethal, and absolutely controlled in crisis. When additional security arrived, Logan had already disappeared from the scene, leaving Rachel to deal with police and questions she couldn't answer. Hours later, she found him in their penthouse, efficiently stitching his own wound. Blood stained the white tiles of their bathroom floor, but Logan's hands remained steady as he worked, his breathing controlled and even. "Who are you?" she demanded, adrenaline and confusion making her voice shake. Logan offered only that he had some experience with security and suggested the attempt on her life connected to discrepancies he'd noticed in Atlas's classified projects. Rachel's world tilted as she realized Logan had been investigating her company all along. "You've been lying to me since the day we met," she accused, anger masking her fear. Logan finished tying off the suture before answering. "Not lying, just not sharing everything. There's a difference." "Not to me," Rachel countered. But the heat in her voice was fading, replaced by grudging acknowledgement that without his intervention, she'd be dead. Their confrontation was interrupted by an urgent call. Atlas's servers were being breached, sensitive weapon designs targeted. Despite her mistrust, Rachel had no choice but to bring Logan with her to the emergency response at headquarters. There, he demonstrated expertise in cybersecurity that no janitor should possess, working alongside their security team to trace the attack to a source inside Atlas itself. As Logan's fingers flew across the keyboard, Rachel watched with growing certainty that nothing about this man was what it seemed. He navigated through encrypted systems with the confidence of someone who'd done this hundreds of times, identifying attack patterns and predicting the hacker's next moves with uncanny accuracy. Evidence pointed to Marcus Blackwood, her father's closest friend and her most trusted advisor. Logan urged caution, explaining that Blackwood was likely just a piece in a larger conspiracy. When Rachel demanded to confront Blackwood directly, Logan revealed enough of his background to establish credibility. People like Blackwood don't work alone. If he's compromised, others are too. I've seen these patterns before. "Where exactly have you seen these patterns?" Rachel pressed, crossing her arms. "What aren't you telling me?" Logan's eyes met hers, measuring how much to reveal. I worked in intelligence assessment for a while. Military. That's all I can say right now. Rachel reluctantly agreed to investigate quietly, accessing her father's private servers with Logan's surprisingly adept assistance. They discovered encrypted communications suggesting a systematic sale of classified weapons technology to international buyers, a treason plot that began months before her father's death. The yacht accident took on new significance, as Rachel realized her father may have discovered the conspiracy. As they worked together through the night, professional barriers crumbled. Rachel saw beyond Logan's calculated simplicity to the strategic mind beneath. Logan glimpsed vulnerability behind Rachel's armor of ambition. When morning came, they'd established an uneasy alliance based on mutual need. She required his skills to uncover the conspiracy, while he needed her access to find the truth he'd been seeking since leaving military service. Neither acknowledged the other current developing between them, stronger than convenience or necessity. The investigation forced Rachel and Logan into closer proximity as they established a secure operations center in a neglected corner of the Atlas campus. For the first time, Rachel saw Logan's methodical mind fully engaged, constructing timeline maps, analyzing communication patterns, and predicting enemy movements with unsettling accuracy. When she questioned his methods, Logan revealed he was once involved in intelligence analysis, a half-truth that explained his skills without exposing his true background. Working late into the night, they pieced together fragments of the conspiracy: shell companies receiving Atlas technology through intermediaries, weapons tests deliberately sabotaged after delivery to U.S. forces, classified designs appearing in modified form in foreign arsenals. The pattern revealed not just corruption but a coordinated effort to undermine American defense capabilities while profiting from the sale of working systems to private buyers. Their breakthrough came when they decrypted files showing Blackwood's offshore accounts receiving payments coinciding with testing failures of Atlas technology, weapons deliberately sabotaged after delivery to military clients. The pattern suggested a calculated effort to undermine American defense capabilities while selling functioning systems to private buyers. More disturbing were references to Phoenix containment, which caused visible tension in Logan's usually impassive expression. The phrase appeared in multiple encrypted communications. Ensure Phoenix containment remains priority. Phoenix assets must be neutralized. Phoenix commander location unknown. Each mention sent a visible current of tension through Logan, though he tried to hide his reaction. When Rachel pressed him about his reaction, they were interrupted by a security breach in their makeshift command center. 3 professional operators with military precision infiltrated the building, clearly targeting their location. Logan instantly shifted into combat mode, instructing Rachel through evasive maneuvers with the fluid command of someone accustomed to being obeyed in life-or-death situations. "Stay 3 steps behind me, move when I move, freeze when I signal," he ordered, all pretense of the deferential janitor gone. In its place was someone Rachel had never met, a commander accustomed to high-stakes operations, someone whose natural authority was so ingrained he no longer noticed it. During their escape through maintenance corridors, Rachel witnessed Logan engage the pursuers with devastating efficiency, neutralizing trained killers with precision that could only come from elite special forces training. His controlled violence both terrified and mesmerized her, as she recognized this was his true element, not the quiet submission he'd performed for months. One attacker came at Logan with a combat knife. He redirected the momentum, disarmed the man, and incapacitated him with a precisely applied chokehold, all in under 5 seconds. Another fired at them from the end of a corridor. Logan pushed Rachel to safety, calculated the trajectory based on the echo pattern, and returned fire without exposing himself. The tactical thinking happened so fast it appeared instinctive. They reached a secure location, a pre-prepared safe house Logan established without her knowledge. As Rachel processed the revelation that her simple husband had been preparing for this scenario all along, Logan finally shared a version of the truth. He admitted to being former military special operations, recruited to investigate Atlas after intelligence suggested classified technology was being compromised. What he didn't reveal was his personal connection to the case, nor his suspicions about her father's role. The safe house was Spartan but comprehensive. Secure communications, weapons cache, medical supplies, multiple escape routes. Everything spoke of meticulous planning by someone who'd done this many times before. Rachel took in the environment, connecting these new pieces to the puzzle that was Logan Hayes. "Your father contacted someone in my former chain of command weeks before his death," Logan explained as he secured the perimeter. "He suspected internal sabotage but didn't know who to trust. I was sent to establish a position within Atlas to investigate quietly." "And marrying me? Was that part of your mission parameters?" Rachel asked, anger masking the deeper hurt of betrayal. "No," Logan answered with rare emotional honesty. "That was unexpected. An opportunity for closer access, yes, but not planned." As Rachel grappled with these revelations, Logan received an encrypted message from a former teammate warning that Sable Phoenix is compromised, and primary targets include Atlas leadership. Rachel didn't understand the terminology, but Logan's reaction, a momentary break in his careful control, told her this was critical information from his past. Before she could demand further explanation, surveillance footage from her penthouse revealed Blackwood and security teams searching their home. More disturbingly, they discovered listening devices in Rachel's personal items. Her presence had been monitored for months, possibly since before her father's death. The conspiracy was larger and more entrenched than either suspected. "They've been watching me all along," Rachel whispered, the violation hitting her harder than she expected. The thought that her most private moments, her grief over her father, her vulnerability, all had been observed by enemies masquerading as allies, made her physically ill. Logan's hand found her shoulder, steady and grounding. "But they didn't see you," he said quietly. "Not the real you. I've watched you too, Rachel. The person I've seen. They have no idea who they're really dealing with." As they processed this information, the undeniable chemistry between them ignited in the confined space of the safe house. Anger, adrenaline, and months of suppressed attraction culminated in an intimate encounter that surprised them both with its emotional intensity. Afterward, in a rare moment of vulnerability, Logan shared fragments of his past, not the classified details, but the emotional cost of his former life. Rachel, in turn, revealed her deeply buried grief over her father and the isolation of her position. "I haven't trusted anyone since my parents died," she admitted, her voice barely audible in the darkness. "Not fully, not even my father toward the end. He was keeping secrets too." "Trust is a luxury in our worlds," Logan replied, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her shoulder. "But sometimes it's also a necessity." This new connection was immediately tested when Logan's secure communications system alerted them to another attempt on Atlas servers, this time targeting the prototype database where the company's most advanced weapons research was stored. The following days established a new dynamic between them. By day, Rachel maintained her CEO persona, seemingly unaffected by recent events, while secretly working with Logan to identify compromised employees. By night, they returned to the safe house, analyzing data, and gradually sharing more of themselves in the process. Logan began revealing strategic details of his military background without compromising classified information. His training in psychological operations, his facility with languages, his years tracking arms dealers across global conflict zones. Rachel shared the weight of inheriting her father's legacy, her struggle to be respected in the male-dominated defense industry, and her genuine passion for technology that protects rather than simply destroys. "I never wanted to build weapons," she confessed during a rare quiet moment. "I wanted to create defense systems, shields, not swords. My father understood that. The contracts that excited him most were always the protective ones: missile interceptors, secure communications, threat detection. That's why they targeted him," Logan suggested. "Someone who prioritizes protection over aggression would notice if offensive capabilities were being compromised." Their professional collaboration evolved into genuine partnership. Logan respected Rachel's analytical brilliance and strategic thinking, while she came to value his experience and instinctive understanding of human motivation. Where she saw technological solutions, he anticipated human vulnerabilities. Together, they constructed a more complete picture of the conspiracy than either could alone. The evidence trail led to a disturbing conclusion. Atlas technology had been modified to create a backdoor vulnerability in American defense systems, potentially allowing hostile remote access to critical infrastructure. The conspiracy extended beyond simple profit into the realm of national security threats. More personally troubling for Rachel was mounting evidence that her father discovered this plot shortly before his death. The timing matches, Logan said, examining the timeline they'd constructed. Your father began accessing unusual server directories 2 weeks before his death. The next day, an encrypted call was placed to my former commanding officer. Why wouldn't he go directly to the authorities? Rachel asked. Because he didn't know who to trust, Logan explained. If the conspiracy reached high enough, official channels could be compromised. A black ops team used to operating outside normal parameters was his safest option. As they worked to document the conspiracy without alerting Blackwood, Logan and Rachel navigated their evolving personal relationship. Having lived behind facades for so long, she as the untouchable Ice Queen, he as the invisible janitor, both struggled with genuine vulnerability. Small moments revealed their changing dynamic, Logan instinctively responding to threats with protective positioning that Rachel no longer resisted. Rachel unconsciously reaching for Logan's steadying presence during moments of doubt. The turning point came when Rachel discovered her father's hidden personal server containing his final investigation notes. Among them was surveillance footage of Logan from years earlier, in military uniform receiving high honors in a classified ceremony. The accompanying file identified him as Commander Hayes of the Sable Phoenix Unit, credited with preventing multiple terrorist attacks on American soil. The screen showed a different Logan, younger, standing at rigid attention as medals were pinned to his chest by a high-ranking military official. His face showed the same controlled expression, but his eyes held none of the shadows that now haunted them. More shocking was a personal message from her father, recorded days before his death. If you're seeing this, I failed to expose the traitors at Atlas. Trust no one from the board. I've requested extraction assistance from an old military contact. If Commander Hayes reaches you, he's the only one you can trust completely. Her father's face on the screen was tense with worry, his normally confident demeanor replaced by urgent concern. I believe they've compromised our defense contracts, Rachel. If I'm right, they'll come for you next. Hayes understands what we're dealing with. He's seen these people before. Rachel confronted Logan with this information, demanding the complete truth about his presence in her life. Logan finally revealed that her father wasn't just aware of his mission, he specifically requested Logan by name based on their previous classified interaction years before. What he didn't share was his own personal motivation, that as a young soldier struggling with homelessness after a difficult deployment, a teenage Rachel had once given him bread when he was starving, a small act of kindness that had saved his life in more ways than one. This moment of human connection had stayed with him through his darkest missions, a reminder of what he was fighting to protect. I was Sable Phoenix, Logan acknowledged, the admission clearly difficult for him. A classified special operations unit tasked with addressing threats that couldn't be handled through official channels. Your father worked with us once, indirectly. He helped us track technology that had been stolen by a terrorist group. And he specifically asked for you, Rachel said, still processing this revelation. Helm did, Logan confirmed, but I would have volunteered anyway. Atlas was on our watch list already. Too many coincidences, too many security failures that shouldn't have happened with your systems. As Logan completed his explanation, an urgent alert came through. Blackwood had scheduled an emergency board meeting for the following day to present evidence of leadership compromise and vote on Rachel's removal as CEO. They realized he was making his move to seize control before they could expose the conspiracy. He's accelerating his timeline, Logan said, studying the meeting notification. Something spooked him. Probably realized we've been accessing the secure servers. What's our play? Rachel asked, already shifting into strategic thinking. With time running out, Rachel made a decision that surprised Logan. Instead of continuing to gather evidence remotely, she proposed they return to Atlas openly. She as the CEO fighting for her company, he finally stepping into his true expertise as her security advisor. No more hiding, she told him. We take the fight to them. That night, as they prepared for the confrontation ahead, the careful walls between them finally dissolved completely. Their physical connection now carried the weight of genuine emotional investment, each recognizing something essential in the other, a matching steel beneath their different exteriors. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Rachel said, as they lay together in the darkness, "this stopped being just a contract a long time ago." Logan's fingers intertwined with hers, his usual reserve giving way to quiet certainty. "For me, it was never just a contract." The Atlas boardroom fell silent as Rachel entered with Logan at her side, no longer in janitor's clothes but wearing a tailored suit that did nothing to disguise his military bearing. Blackwood's momentary shock quickly shifted to calculated pleasantness. "Rachel, we were just discussing some security concerns, and I see you've brought—" "Your husband?" "My head of personal security," Rachel corrected smoothly. Given recent events, the board shouldn't object to extra protection. The meeting began with Blackwood presenting evidence that Rachel had been sharing classified information with outside parties, doctored communications designed to frame her for the very crimes he'd committed. As board members murmured with concern, Rachel maintained perfect composure, allowing Blackwood to build his case before systematically dismantling it. The boardroom air grew tense as Blackwood displayed fabricated emails supposedly showing Rachel offering classified technology to foreign buyers. Several board members exchanged troubled glances, while others watched with expressions that suggested they already knew what was coming. "These are serious accusations, Marcus," Rachel said when he finished, her voice steady despite the stakes. "If they were true, fortunately we have evidence of a different narrative." She presented counter-evidence of Blackwood's offshore accounts and suspicious timing of prototype failures. When Blackwood attempted to dismiss these as coincidences, Logan stepped forward to display intercepted communications between Blackwood and known arms dealers. The boardroom erupted in accusations and denials. "This is absurd," Blackwood blustered, though his confidence was visibly shaken. "You're trying to deflect from your own treason by accusing me, your father's oldest friend." "My father," Rachel replied with deadly calm, "began investigating you weeks before his death. We have his records." In the ensuing chaos, Blackwood triggered a building-wide security protocol, ostensibly for a potential data breach, actually to lock down the facility with his loyal security team in control. As emergency lights activated, Logan instantly recognized the tactic. "He's isolating the building. This isn't containment. It's preparation for elimination of witnesses." Red warning lights flashed throughout the Atlas complex as security doors automatically sealed, trapping employees in separate sections of the building. Over the public address system, Blackwood's voice announced, "A critical security breach requiring immediate lockdown procedures," while security teams loyal to him moved to secure key areas. What followed was a carefully orchestrated battle throughout the Atlas complex. Logan coordinated with trusted security personnel, while Rachel used her override codes to maintain system access. Blackwood, revealing the ruthlessness beneath his avuncular facade, broadcast evidence implicating Rachel in her father's death while deploying tactical teams to eliminate both her and Logan. The confrontation forced both protagonists to fully embrace their true selves. Rachel abandoned her careful corporate restraint, using her intimate knowledge of Atlas systems to outmaneuver Blackwood's team. Logan fully unleashed his military expertise, protecting Rachel while systematically neutralizing threats with precision rather than excessive force. Through maintenance tunnels and secure corridors, they fought their way toward the server core, the heart of Atlas, where the most damning evidence was stored. Rachel's technical knowledge combined with Logan's tactical experience made them a formidable team, anticipating each other's moves with growing synchronicity. The climax occurred in the Atlas server core, where Blackwood planned to destroy evidence while uploading the backdoor program to defense clients. Rachel and Logan arrived just as he initiated the sequence, leading to a final confrontation where Blackwood revealed the full scope of his betrayal, including his direct role in her father's murder. "I was weak, just like you," Blackwood taunted Rachel, as his fingers flew across the keyboard, initiating the server purge sequence. "Brilliant with technology but naive about power. He actually believed Atlas should prioritize protection over profit. That's what Atlas was founded for, Rachel countered, attempting to access the override controls. That's what your father believed, Blackwood sneered. But there's more money in selling to both sides than there is in merely defending one. As Blackwood drew a weapon, Logan moved with the speed of his Special Forces training, placing himself between Rachel and danger. The ensuing struggle left Logan seriously wounded and Blackwood dead, but not before he activated the server self-destruct sequence that would destroy all evidence of the conspiracy. Blood spreading across his shirt from a gunshot wound to his shoulder, Logan urged Rachel toward the exit. "We need to go. This place is rigged to blow." With the facility evacuating and systems failing, Rachel had to make an impossible choice. Escape with Logan to get him medical attention, or remain to override the destruction sequence and preserve the evidence needed to clear her name and expose the larger conspiracy. Logan, despite his injury, insisted she save the evidence. "Some things are worth the sacrifice." "So are some people," Rachel countered, her fingers already moving across the terminal, attempting to halt the deletion process while simultaneously helping Logan toward the exit. In the moment of crisis, Rachel found a third option, using her technical brilliance to transfer essential data to secure external servers while helping Logan escape the collapsing server facility. The explosion destroyed much of the physical evidence, but not before Rachel had captured enough to expose the conspiracy. As emergency services secured the Atlas campus, Rachel stayed at Logan's side through emergency surgery. The carefully constructed walls around her heart finally and completely dismantled. When he regained consciousness, their shared glance communicated what neither was yet ready to voice, that their arrangement had become something neither expected to find. 6 months later, Atlas Defense Technologies had undergone radical transformation. With Blackwood's conspiracy exposed, Rachel had restructured the company with transparency as its core value. Military contracts continued, but with enhanced oversight and ethical guidelines that her father would have approved. The Atlas headquarters had been rebuilt, its security protocols completely overhauled under new leadership. Where once secrecy had been paramount, now accountability took precedence. Multiple layers of oversight ensuring no single person could compromise critical systems. Logan, his true background now a matter of classified record with the Defense Department, had assumed a legitimate role as Atlas's Director of Security, his expertise no longer hidden beneath a janitor's uniform. Their marriage, once a business arrangement, had evolved into a genuine partnership, celebrated with a small private ceremony that officially replaced their courthouse transaction. At the dedication of the new Joseph Donovan Memorial Research Wing, Rachel delivered a speech honoring her father's legacy of innovation and integrity. From the audience, Logan watched with quiet pride as she announced the Sable Phoenix Initiative, a security protocol ensuring no weapon system could be deployed without multi-level authentication, preventing the kind of backdoor exploitation Blackwood attempted. "My father believed in building shields, not swords," Rachel told the assembled dignitaries and employees. "The Sable Phoenix Initiative ensures that Atlas technology will always protect those it's meant to serve, never compromised, never turned against the innocent." The name held special significance for them both, honoring Logan's former unit while transforming its legacy from secrecy to protection. When a reporter asked about the unusual name, Rachel simply stated, "It represents rising from ashes stronger than before," something both Atlas and I have personal experience with. In their private life, both continued healing from past wounds. Logan gradually shared the classified details of his former missions, including the truth about his first encounter with Rachel years earlier. How, as a young soldier struggling with PTSD and homelessness, a teenage Rachel had given him bread outside her father's building, an act of kindness that had literally saved his life during his darkest moment. What she saw as a forgettable interaction had been transformative for him, giving him purpose when he had none. Rachel, in turn, learned to trust not just Logan, but her own capacity for connection, beyond the controlled isolation she once maintained. "I don't even remember it," Rachel admitted when Logan finally shared this story. "There was a man outside Dad's building. I gave him half my lunch. You said, Everyone deserves to eat, Logan recalled with perfect clarity. I hadn't eaten in 3 days, was considering ending it all that night. That small moment of humanity, it mattered more than you could know. Their relationship evolved into a balance of strengths, her strategic brilliance complementing his tactical expertise, his steady presence grounding her intense focus. Neither attempted to change the other's essential nature. Instead, they created space where both could be fully themselves without pretense. The final scene showed them in their new home outside Austin, reviewing security protocols for an upcoming government visit to Atlas. Work naturally transitioned to personal connection as they moved from professional partners to intimate ones. The walls between their various roles finally dissolved. When Logan confessed his initial mission parameters never included falling in love with his target, Rachel smiled with the warmth few ever saw. The best operations always involve unexpected variables, she told him, echoing his own words from their training sessions. That's why we plan for everything and adapt to reality. As they stood together overlooking the Texas landscape, Logan's security alerts pinged with a potential new threat to Atlas technology. A familiar pattern suggesting Blackwood's international partners hadn't abandoned their objectives. Rather than concern, both responded with the focused readiness of people who had found their perfect counterparts in both peace and battle. "Ready for another mission, Commander?" Rachel asked, already moving toward her secure laptop. Logan's smile held all the certainty his former life lacked. "With you? Always,"